Good morning, Zoo Med fans. We're here at AnimalCon 2023. We're with our first guest of the day on the first day of the show, Brian Kusko. Brian, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Brian Kusko. He even said it right. And I keep reptiles, have been keeping reptiles for most of my life with a small decade hiatus in Hawaii, create content on YouTube. And that's how I ended up here at AnimalCon is through all those different activities.
You make going to Hawaii sound like such a little thing.
Yeah, well, small decade.
Small decade.
Decade plus 2 years. Yeah.
What did that decade consist of? Real quickly.
No reptile keeping.
No reptile.
Lots of live shows playing drums with a band.
What an amazing environment, right?
Amazing environment, meeting my wife and having our first kid. That's what Hawaii looks like.
So, well, for start, how can people find you? What platforms are you on?
If you just Google Brian Kusko, some stuff that I don't want you to know will pop up, but also stuff that I do want you to know will pop up as well. So.
And what sort of content do you like creating? What's your niche? What do you work with?
Vlogs are really where I have the most fun creating. And that actually tended to be because I have multiple YouTube channels, and the vlog channel is the one that surpassed the rest of them. Okay. Which is great because it's the one that I have the most fun with. I have my kids, I've got kids being born on that channel, and that's where I have the most fun. So, and it's self-titled. That channel's called Brian Kusko. So
I'm used to reptiles being born on live video, but it's kids being born on live video sounds a little more graphic.
I make sure my wife is okay with the edit. It wasn't live. We were recording it live, but then I was like, "Is okay? Is this clip okay? Is this clip okay?" She's like, "No, take that one out. That one you can leave it."
So what animals do you work with personally? You're a keeper, right? So
yeah.
What animals are you working with?
Snakes. I've always been a fan of snakes since I got my first pet snake when I was 4 years old.
What was your first pet snake?
It was not the best first pet snake. I didn't know too much. I was 4. My parents didn't know too much either. So it was a rough green snake.
Oh, interesting.
Which probably came from here somewhere in Florida, and it made its way to the East Bay Vivarium in Berkeley. Okay. Which is still there. It's like one of the oldest reptile shops in the country, which is where I got my later in life snake again when I moved back from Hawaii and got a ball python, because I'd always wanted one when I was a kid, but I never got one. And so I work with ball pythons, breed ball pythons. I've produced some python bronchosmia blood pythons. Sure. I also have indigo snakes, corn snakes, hognose, reticulated pythons that I was intending to breed at one point, but decided to not because they produce so many. And I think it's really takes a special person to keep reticulated pythons responsibly for a long time. So I backed off on the idea of breeding those, but I still keep them as pets. And
what's your favorite of all those projects? What do you really like working with?
The indigo snakes are probably my favorite snake as a species. And I was planning to breed some of those, but my male got carcinoma and went pretty quick, and I only had the pair. So I do plan to find something again at some point, but he was so cool and so great with kids. I like to do educational programs as well. Sure. I've been blessed enough to see thousands of kids touch snakes for their, maybe not the first time, but just bring my snakes to either libraries or schools and watch kids have their first experience with them. And I love doing that too. That's probably almost more fun for me than keeping snakes myself, is to watch other people overcome their fears or get to know that a snake is not necessarily a scary thing.
Do you see a lot of fear stigma in the kids as you're doing this?
Some, but kids are a little easier, more pliable. I think the more dug in fears are the ones that are harder to break, like the teacher, who, when I first get there, says, "I'm leaving and I'm not coming back until you're gone." Oh no. Those are the fear stigma, because that's ingrained, right? So that's been there for however many decades at that point with that teacher. But to watch a teacher like that, by the end of the day, hold a 16-foot, 100-pound reticulated python and take some pictures.
That's gotta be amazing.
Yeah, that's some of the most amazing moments for me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Do you have any bucket list animals? Do you have one that you'd really like to work with, you just haven't had the chance yet?
Indigo snake was it for a long time and broke that.
It's an amazing animal.
It is. And I broke that seal. So I mean, I can't say that I do it. Maybe some far-fetched, fantasy world, a Komodo dragon. When I was a kid, that was also because it has the name dragon in it, right? And
every little boy wants to own a dragon at some point in their life.
Exactly.
Yeah, or be around a dragon for that matter. Yeah. No, that's wonderful.
I did get the opportunity to actually jump into an enclosure with a Komodo dragon in Indonesia and run alongside it as it chased down a chicken. So that was, to have that experience, that was almost fantasy.
No fear, no fear of it accidentally turning and seeing you there.
I mean, I was on my toes, and I was surprised that I was allowed to jump in with it. I was almost joking. We were in there with one of the senators. He'd opened up the zoo while it was closed to the public, and I was kind of half joking. He was like, "So can I jump in with a Komodo or what?"
And he said immediately, "Yes, go ahead."
Yeah, he said, "Yeah, go ahead." I said, "For real?" He said, "Yeah, go for it." He's like, "Okay."
I mean, so obviously, you enjoy doing this. You enjoy being around kids and sharing that appreciation. What do you enjoy about keeping reptiles? Like, what got you into this passion of keeping reptiles?
Well, I mean, I was way into dinosaurs when I was just 4 years old. And a kid, I had dinosaur bed sheets, and I dressed up as a dinosaur for Halloween. So it's that dinosaur fascination I think a lot of us start with, is that dinosaur. And so there was a California case snake crawling through our backyard when I was 4 years old. My dad identified it as non-venomous and it was okay for us to play with. Turned out it was the neighbor's escaped pet. My neighbor was like this Hell's Angels dude, and his name was Snake. And then so we brought him his snake back. His living room looks like my garage does today, just reptiles everywhere.
Sure.
So I looked at my dad at 4 years old, I was like, why aren't we doing this is a thing? And so they were cool enough to get me a first snake at 4. So it was like before I really knew anything about the world as it is. I was very innocent coming into it.
Do you have any advice for the future reptile hobby, like somebody who's interested in getting a reptile, but they haven't quite taken that jump? They don't have the fearlessness that you just described of yourself being a kid and running out and grabbing a snake out of the yard. Do you have any advice for keepers that are looking to do what you do?
Today, there is a wealth of information out there. I mean, we live in the information age. There's literally no reason that you can't do as much research as possible as easily. But you don't have to go to a library anymore. You can just be on your phone or on your computer at home and just do as much research into whatever species it is that you think you want to get, if you want to be a reptile keeper, and just go gung-ho till everything about that animal, and then find somebody who is already keeping that animal. A mentor.
Yes.
Somebody who is actually doing it already that you can confide in and ask questions of. Because I think one of the things that happens a lot, even still today, is people get their first animal, they don't know anything about it, it dies, and then they lose interest. They lose interest, or it breaks their heart, and they don't want to ever do it again. So just being really well prepared, making sure you have your environment set up completely at home before getting the animal, and having that mentor is huge.
That's great advice. You heard it here, guys. Thank you very much, Brian, and enjoy the rest of AnimalCon.
Thanks, man.